Hey, what's going on, guys? Just dropping in here is the 1/100 scale master grade Jedda kit here in a pretty nondescript box. There's not a whole lot to see here on the outside of the box. We will take a brief look at that, but yeah, not a whole lot to see. And then we'll get into the kit, which is the main focus of the video here today. Really cool design, and the kit looks quite nice. Let's go ahead and dive into it here for today's video. And so yeah, really all we have here on the outside of the box is just this little bit of line art, and that's kind of about it. So we can pretty much just get right into the contents inside. And in there, we've got some runners, of course, a whole bunch of runners. We'll take a look at those momentarily. And there's some water slide decals in there too, actually. These look to be like some caution stripes there in black and yellow. Most of the decals here in white or yellow, kind of yellowish orange. You got some Londo Bell, EFSF kind of logos there. Some other EFSF logos. So some different things here for your included water slide decals. Great to have those. And then our instruction manual, which does feature a photo of what looks to be like a painted build there, I would imagine. But it just has some simple text on the front and back. On the front inside here, we got our parts list there. You can see there's our decal sheet included and parts for the base. And then we're right on into the construction, starting off with the head. And we'll just go through the construction. Everything's in just line art here, but you can see like the numbers are at least in color. So everything's like printed in color, although there's not any color to it other than just like kind of pink highlights noting where certain parts are supposed to fit together there for you. And if we go all the way through the construction here to the very back, there's a little bit about how to put the stand together, the display stand there at the end. And lastly, there is a marking guide. So here's just letting you know where all the water slide decals are meant to be placed around on that. So this is really the only kind of like color images of the model that we have here aside from what's on the front right there. So looks like we do also have a small LED unit and battery, a couple of batteries here included in this little bag and a little LED unit. I think that's for in the head. And this is a thick black, flexible part here for the display base, very similar to what we saw with like the 1/100 scale master grade style not stargazer kit had a similar part like this for the display base for that, if you got like the display set for that, if I remember correctly. And then anyway, got this big piece here for the display base, just this big chunk of gray plastic there with some nice detail on it, but otherwise, I mean, like not really anything too crazy. We have a few more just kind of separate parts here for the base that are just like a couple of other gray pieces meant for that. And yeah, this sticker sheet here, it's a kind of very interesting material. It's not, it looks like it'd be kind of like your average like foil stickers, but as you can see, it's in like a matte finish and it's a bit more like kind of flexible. It's not just kind of like regular paper. I'm not sure how well this will work, but we will certainly find out. And then for the runners, then here we have runner A1 and A2, the first of our runners here in this main green color for the armor. And you can see there some really nice detail here on the exterior, which is very kind of iconic to the design, I feel like. So that looks good. Runner B, a nice big runner here of some more parts in green. Obviously that huge part there for the shield. And then runner C being the rest of our green parts. And we do have two of runner C. So this would be parts for like the arms and legs, anywhere where we have doubled parts there. Then runners D through H are all in gray here for the inner frame. So here's runner D, which we have two of there for some of the gray inner frame parts. Runner E, we also have two of for some more of those. Looks like a lot of parts probably for in the legs. Runners F, G, and H are not doubled. We just have one of each of those. There's again a big shield part there. Runner G for some more parts for what looks to be like in the torso and backpack there maybe. And then runner H, a bunch more of the inner frame parts here in gray. Then runner I is going to be here in a clear blue for the beam saber effect parts, as well as a few clear blue parts there. And this is in a kind of little bit softer plastic for this, which is fine for the beam saber effect parts, but I'm not really as much of a fan of parts like for like the visor and the camera bits to be in this softer plastic, but that's what we've got there for that. We'll see how that looks on the kit. Runners J1 and J2 are going to be all of our like kind of a little slightly orangish yellow color parts here for the kit. J1 and then J2 we have two of here. Runner K is in a darker green, so we will have a few parts in just a slightly darker green color there. Runner L is a few parts here in a lighter gray color. Runner M, interestingly, we have two of. There's one runner M in this kind of very light light grays or off-white kind of color, and then one in that same green color that we saw before. So I'm guessing we're going to use like some parts from one runner and some from the other, maybe just have some options there for those. And last but not least, runner N is going to be here in red. Obviously a few little bits in red for like the part there at the front of the crotch, the chest, cockpit hatch, part for the face, and then a couple of other little missile bits there in red. That's it. Let's go ahead and check out the kit. All right, guys, and so here is the kit all put together. Really nice. If you missed the live stream, you go back and check that out, because there's probably some good tips in there for building this kit that we went through during the live stream that'll be kind of hard to show you in the review. But for the most part, the construction on this was very smooth. It goes together pretty simply. But as you can see, for the exterior of the kit, I mean, it looks anything but. You've got all that great detail in there, some really nice color separation. Obviously, like the little yellow bits poking out here and there. But then I also really like the two-tone green that we have going on there. So the kit overall looks really nice, and we do have some really cool accessories included as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at those. So first off, and importantly, is our base. Now that big sticker, which I at first thought was multiple smaller stickers, is just one big sticker that goes here on the base, and then it's just a big old base, quite hollow, and you can hear something rattling around on the inside. So there's a trap door on this. We have this flexible arm that will go up, and that's where the kit is going to be plugged onto. There's pros and cons to these. The nice thing is that it's kind of easy to move around, and it does seem like it should be sturdy enough to hold up the kit. The thing is that if you wanted the kit to be like much lower or something, you don't have a whole lot of control over the height, just basically however you can bend that. But if you remove that part, here we can open this up, and then you have storage on the inside for some of your accessories. Now basically only like your hand option parts will fit in here. None of the other accessories will fit, but you've got the base connection piece, which you're going to have to connect up underneath the hips, and then that'll plug onto that flexible arm. And then we've got our hand options, which are going to include a set of open hands here with a thumb that's on a ball joint, as well as two different sets of holding hands, one for the beam sabers, which is just going to be just a regular holding hand, one for the beam rifle, which you have a trigger finger hand that's for the left and the right side. You're really not going to need a trigger finger hand for the left, because the beam rifle is really only kind of meant to be held in the right hand, I think. You do have a clear blue part in there for the scope that's going to the front and the back, but it's really kind of difficult to see. But as you can see here on the handle, there is a hole where this will peg into your trigger finger hand. There's a secondary handle, which I think is like really small. It looks kind of oddly small, but that will move side to side here for doing a two-handed grip on the rifle. Otherwise, nothing else really moves on this, but there is some nice color separation with the bits of light gray, so it's not just like a solid dark gray here. What would be the seam line is made up as just a panel line detail there across the top and the bottom, so relatively simple, but overall a nice looking weapon here. Honestly, almost would have just preferred like some foil stickers for these cameras instead of like nothing on this side camera and then that clear blue part for the main camera, just because of how you kind of really can't see it all that much at all. And when not in use, there's nowhere where you can like store this onto the back skirt or anything like that, considering that we've got a little something else going on there with the back skirt anyway. And yeah, if you wanted to store this inside the base, for example, when not in use, it just doesn't fit, unless maybe you just like took off that back part or something. You might be able to squeeze it in there. But other than that, we've got our two clear blue effect parts here for the beam sabers. Those are just going to be stored up in the backpack. If you go up here, you can pop this out, lift that up, and then pull that off from there, like so. And lastly, we've got his big old surfboard shield here with, again, some nice details on the front. On the back side, a separate gray piece, and then I'm guessing these are supposed to be missiles, although they do kind of look like beam saber handles there, sort of, if they would have holes in the center there. You have this handle which will fold out. That's optional if you really want to use that or not, otherwise, because this just plugs onto the back of the forearm and then kind of folds around to the side of the forearm. But that is on a flexible piece there that will bend, that will turn right here, and that just plugs right into the back of the forearm right there. And that's just about it for our accessories. You do have an option part here for the top of the head, one that has the fin kind of on the side. I believe that's meant to be for like a commander unit, but otherwise you just have this one here. And as you can see, getting into talking about some more of the details of this kit, we do have that LED in the head, which is lighting up the eyes. Now, this has basically been on since yesterday when I built the kit, so it's been almost 24 hours. And I'm honestly not entirely sure how to turn it on or off. If I squeeze the sides of the head, it turns off, but then it will like kind of come back on. It'll fade back to being on. If I hold it for a few seconds, then it kind of seems to be off, but then it's still kind of coming back on. Or if I just squeeze the head, well, there it's off, but then it will start to come back on. So I'm not exactly sure how the LED works. There didn't really seem to be any sort of like pressure mechanism, but while I was putting the head together and just suddenly it just came on. So I'm not sure exactly. It does look good though. It's a bit faded now because it's just a couple of little tiny batteries in there. But as we were talking about during the live stream, the clear blue parts not being in like a perfect clear, but in like a little bit sort of foggy clear blue, that's good because it helps to sort of like diffuse and spread the light out through the visor. So at its full brightness, when you have like nice new fresh batteries in there, it does look nice and bright in there. You can see it's also lighting up the head camera a little bit, and then mostly the mono eye there. So it's a cool little gimmick, and I wish there was like kind of better instructions for that and a better and easier way to turn it on and off. And if it used like a little bit larger batteries that it would be either brighter or last longer would be nice as well. And some more gimmicks of the kit here. We've got this opening cockpit hatch there, and there is a seated pilot figure inside. I know it's dark in there. I'm going to use light to try to light that up. There you go. You can kind of see the seated pilot figure inside the cockpit there. But otherwise, not too much really in the way of gimmicks. Everything moves really quite nicely on this, and you got a lot of great detail. You can hear for like the grenades on the side skirts, this part will open up slightly there. Pretty cool detail when you bend the forearm. It's a double joint, but for the lower joint, you've got that piston detail there, and then the second joint's gonna be up there at the top, giving you a really nice full bend there. Similarly, we do have a double joint at the knee as well. And at the full bend, it's not like a complete bend, but about as complete as you could possibly want it. So a nice range of movement there. One thing I did have to fix a little bit, if you guys saw during the live stream, this front ankle armor is just plugged onto this little ball joint right there. And first of all, it's not the best connection, so I would maybe recommend putting a little bit of glue on that because it doesn't like to stay on there super well. But also when you push the ankle armor onto that ball joint, it kind of pushes the ball joint in, kind of sinks it in, sort of bends the plastic a little bit. So what I did was I cut a little piece of a bread clip, so just a little thin piece of plastic to the right size to basically kind of wedge up inside of there to basically act as a backing so that when I plug the ankle armor on, it's not pushing the ball joint in there. Small little simple fix, but as you can see here, this piston detail we also have on the front of the ankle. So when you bend that down, that'll extend out. Although I noticed it just kind of doesn't bend like that as it should. You kind of have to push it back in. It's sort of like bowed out. But that gives you some nice detail inside there, and you can kind of see the range of articulation that we have here for the ankle as well. Really nice detail up underneath the feet, a separation of this toe bend here, like that. The toe or the whole front of the half of the foot will not point down, but you basically just have to extend the whole ankle joint back to move the foot pointed down. Otherwise, moving up to the front, you can bend the whole foot forward like this, and then the toe farther like that for an example. But some really cool detail here around on the back side with this part being able to lift up a little bit. Really like these thruster bells there with the yellow parts and the gray parts inside. Here for the back skirt, obviously it's a little unique because you just have like these huge like thruster pod things here sticking out. These are on ball joints that will move a little bit side to side, mostly just kind of up and down here at the back. Then just going back up to the shoulders here, these will move a little bit forward and back, but you can actually like kind of pull this joint out a bit, extend it out, and then that'll give you a little bit better range forward here for the shoulder articulation. Up, it can go nice and far there, probably more than 90 degrees perpendicular to the body, and then the head as well. This can point down to there, which is pretty normal, and then up, not that far. Would have liked if it would have been able to point up a little bit farther there. The only part that I noticed when building the kit that was a little bit loose is the Vulcan pod bit here on the side of the head kind of kept falling off because the peg is just a bit too shallow. So I did put a little bit of glue on that just to make sure that that's not falling off, and I would recommend you guys to do the same. But like I said, if you're going to be building this kit, I would definitely recommend checking out the live stream build that I did of this over on the USA Gundam TV channel. Make sure you're subscribed over there too, because I'm going to start doing more live builds, some here on my channel, some over on that channel, just kind of depending on the kit. And so definitely check out that live build, because there was a couple of things like kind of not necessarily fixes, but little like hiccups that I had kind of along the way, just like user error that you guys could avoid, or you would know kind of how to address if you saw basically in the live build kind of how I went about that. But overall, I gotta say, really nice kit. It really impressed me a lot. I think it looks fantastic. It kind of reminds me a bit more of like a full mechanics kit more than an MG. It does have the opening cockpit, which is like a feature that does kind of separate full mechanics and RE100 kits from MGs in terms of like how the grades are separated from Bandai. As I've said in the last couple of like full mechanics releases, the Seed ones and then the Aerial Gundam as well, those full mechanics kits are so close to being master grade, they kind of really blur the line. And this kit I feel like is very similar. It kind of does the same thing. It's complex enough that I feel like it certainly could, you know, fall under the master grade label, and it certainly has a lot of really nice exterior detail. But something that we see a lot more with like the full mechanics line is that it has like all the exterior detail to look like a master grade, but it's not quite as complex, and that's what I feel like this one's kind of more like. But it definitely sort of blurs that line. Either way, at the end of the day, like the most important thing for me is just that the kit looks cool, and this kit looks fantastic. The really nice color separation on there, as I mentioned, the little bits of yellow poking out, and then also all the little bits of gray, little details of the frame that poke through the armor. So you have all these little gray details everywhere. And this is obviously not doing anything special with the kit. If you were to go in and pen align this, put the decals on, because you do have those included waterslide decals as well, and then put some top coat on it, the kit's going to look really, really nice just straight out of the box. It's one of those that you just kind of really don't need to do a whole lot with it. Maybe you could paint in like a couple of the little details here and there, but overall I think the kit looks fantastic. Really, really nice. And I think it comes with basically everything that you could want for it. This style of display base with like the flexible arm is not really my favorite. I kind of prefer something more kind of what we typically have for like a usual kind of action base with like a mechanical arm kind of thing. And then I also really wish that we would have got a set of just closed hands as far as one of the hand options, because we got 3 different sets of hands for options in here, but no closed fists. I just find that kind of weird, and that's one thing that I wish would have been included. But otherwise, like I said, the kit impressed me a lot. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. If you want to check out the kit for yourself, of course, you can check the link in the video description to USA Gundam store, where you got the kit on there, and then lots of other great stuff on the website. And again, make sure you guys are, if you're not yet subscribed to the USA Gundam TV YouTube channel, subscribe over there. Check out the live build of this. And as always, thank you all so much for all of your support. I'll see you in the next video. Later.